Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's live stream. We're very, very excited. I am to have one of my all-time favorites with me, Michael Knight. And you loved him as Tad and All My Children, and you're going to love him, and you are loving him as Martin Gray on General Hospital. So we're going to get into what's going on in General Hospital and his return to daytime and about legendary Tad. So let's welcome Michael E. Knight. Hey, hey. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey, Mikey. Mikey.
So good to see you.
You too, brother.
You're looking good. How are you?
Good. I like your hair cropped. You got shorn.
I got short. I think. Did you get a haircut?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I got the hair clip
We
from
got a haircut for this live stream.
Yeah, just for you.
For me.
I had to look good. Had to try anyway.
So you came back to General Hospital recently. We just saw you on air as Martin. I know you're doing more. How are you liking, coming back to daytime and on General Hospital? And how's it been?
Loving it. Just loving it. Having a ball. Couldn't be happier. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to, because you're an old friend, in case the people who are watching don't know this. You've been a long time friend and support. I want to do this with you. Just say thank you as a complete sentence, and it's sort of a thank you to our audience, because the reason I get the chance to do it is there are enough of them out there going, holy shit, Michael Knight's still alive. The only problem is it's sort of like this thing is it's not even a problem. It's sort of rolled out. It's got sort of a life of its own, and it's cool because it's nice to be a new toy in the drawer for the writers. But I couldn't be happier. I mean, the fact is, Mikey, I know half of the people, from what's the old joke?
Very good friends with James Patrick Stuart.
It's Patrick Stewart, who may make a guest appearance. He's got two jobs, not one. He's doing it.
I know.
So he's instead of driving all the way home south of the airport, sometimes he stays here. Because we're first up tomorrow, so he's in the other room hiding. So he may show his ugly head.
I would love to have him. I mean, his new show looks really cute.
Yeah, looks really, really good, and it's right up his power alley too. He's hysterical. Yeah. But working with him is wonderful. Working with Genie is like, it couldn't be better. There's so many old friends, man. That I got to work with John J. York yesterday and Christina and stuff, and they're like, I remember when he would come over and do Max Scorpio on All My Children. He'd fly into New York and do, and it's like, it's kind of like going home. It's wonderful, and I know the guy that I give all credit to that forever is Frank, because Frank was my ex-wife Catherine's boss on One Life to Live for years and years and years. And Frank's been doing it. Frank knows every job in the studio from the ground up and stuff. He was the one that I reached out to and said, hey man, can I get off the bench? And he was like, sure. And initially it was supposed to be just like 4 episodes with Roger, and it was the fans that went, hey, Michael Knight's still around. I thought for a while they were going to spin it somehow, make it Tad, but I think we've gone too far down the road to do that.
I was thinking maybe they would do that, but they did Martin Gray.
Martin Gray. Boy, they really thought hard about that, right? Word association.
Let's say Martin. Then they'll know. And then Genie, when down the line in the writing, did you realize they were going to make you a half brother of Genie?
That was a total surprise to me. Actually, it was the way into it was Jeff Kober was also a friend who was playing my evil brother. When I found out literally the day up, Frank came down and said he got a scene, and he came down. There was a hanging tag between me and Jeff, so we apparently knew each other because you guys are brothers. And then it was about a week later that I found out it was Genie. And I was like, hey man, I'm a Spencer. Right on. If you're on the family tree, your odds go up.
Yes, that helps you when they anchor you in.
Yeah.
Family. Yeah.
And now I'm Spencer's uncle. No, I'm Nicholas's uncle.
Nicholas. You're related to Nick. Yeah. Yes. Now, would you like to see him do? Because originally he wasn't such a nice guy, Martin, right? He's like a shifty lawyer.
Yes. there's a high-powered,
yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's like they get so. I'm kind of like an average guy. I mean, there are people that can do. I love doing evil. I love doing eccentric and stuff. But I think as they write things more and more and more, also there's a sort of. I think there's kind of an association, even though it's not Tad. There's an association that I have for kind of character work, a kind of character that I bring to the canvas. And I can't fault the writers for going, oh, this is kind of where we see him. No, but it's been like 40 years ago. I was a bad guy. And then it just sort of, I sort of evolved into, I think, towards the end of All My Kids, Tad was sort of like one of those.
The moral center, one of the moral
center.
Moral
center, the pivotal heart characters.
Right, but there he was. Do you still get Tad the cat when you walk around?
Sometimes. It's really cool. It's really, I mean, what I get, my favorite joke is what I get now is, I'll be in Ralph's and somebody will walk up to me and go, did you go to school in Florida? It's like they know you, but they don't know where from. The white hair throws them off. Yeah, people are amazing. I mean, the thing that's really cool about what we do, I mean, everybody makes fun of soap. You know better than I do, Mike. You can making fun of soaps is like kicking a puppy. It's too easy to do. It's just so many times you can marry the same woman, come back from the dead, have amnesia, get your kids back from the Martians or whatever.
But did you like when you played Ted Orsini?
I did. I had a ball. I
remember, I thought we talked about that years ago, and I wasn't sure back then if you liked it or didn't like it.
I was just really bad at it. I was like, I had such respect for David Canary to see what that guy. I mean, he was so good at that. It's just, when Emmy after Emmy after, it's hard to do. It's a long day and stuff, and I was doing this like. I didn't know how to differentiate, Ted from Tad. Another thing, they must have thought I was about 5 seconds to come up with that name, right?
Like
Ted and Tad.
Ted.
I remember I was doing this sort of like really, really bad Clint Eastwood impersonation. I was like, really kind of, whatever. And it only lasted, I think, 6 months or something like that. But I will never, I walked up to David Canary after doing this for 2 or 3 months, and I went, I just don't know how you do it. I really don't.
Nobody's like David Canary. Nobody.
Yeah, he got so good at David could cut himself off. David would, he worked with 2 guys with the back of his head, and they got so good at doing scenes together that they could build in a kind of a rhythm thing where David could, it would seem, the edit would be so tight that it would seem like David would cut himself off. But he got to the point, I remember watching when he won an Emmy, it's like Stewart's wife died and from AIDS. It was an AIDS story.
Cindy. Yeah.
And there was a scene where David comes in, Adam comes in to comfort Stewart. And Stewart's in the chapel in Pine Valley Hospital. And either one of these performances would have won him the Emmy. Now he's doing both of them, collage together. It's just it's miraculous what he was capable of doing. But it was fun. Yeah, you asked me, it's like, have I had fun? Yes. Is it sometimes is it been a grind? Yeah. But I'm sort of out of that, well out of that, 20 years past that sort of thing. So now they kind of bring me in sort of as local color, local flavor.
Flavor. Right. And how do you feel with working with Lynn Herring and Lucy? Together.
I love it.
She's great.
I crushed on Lynn like way back, and now it's like at the first, I think maybe you were doing a love scene or something like that, and I was like, I always wanted to get this character into bed. Only took me 40 years. She's wonderful. She's really, really funny. And like I say, I mean, it's Mike, we've known each other. It's like it's a really small business, and you get to know each other. Like you go to the Emmys. I think I met Lynn back in 86, 87, something like that. And so it's kind of it's something really, really comforting, the fact that they let us work together. And also there's something really, really kinky about love scenes at this age, because it's like I jokingly say at this age you really got to try harder, So we did a thing and God bless Frank and our director, Fido. I think there was like a long panning shot after she comes in, and there's takes off the fur coat, and there's a long panning shot. And I said, "Hey man, we're spooning. Can Tad be wearing one of her shoes?" You know what I mean? At this age, you got to try harder. You got to go with your strength. So it's like outfit night. So there's something so cool about that. You know what I mean? It's like, because when you're 20, 28, 29 years old and you look great with your clothes on, half the time, I mean, you're just like, I think they spent 5 years with I barely put on a shirt back in the 80s. Now it's kind of like, you can mix it up a little bit, make it interesting.
Now, how much of it is improvised by you and Lynn when you get the script, and how much is it like on?
They don't. I mean, if you got something, they're really. I got to say, my hat is off to Frank Valentini, because as budgets have gotten tighter and tighter, and schedules are just nuts. I mean, if you had told me back in '94 that we would be looking at days where we'd have 65, 68, 69 items. An item is a scene. I would have told you, you must be digging the crack. Because there's just no way you could do it. So it's not the days where you could come in and, we would block from 10 to 12 and it's like, oh, well, we could play with it. What if we do this? If you have an idea, they're like, cool, but you better be prepared to hit the ground running. I mean, if you have to prove your case, it's not going to work. So it's like, the idea is like, we do this as quickly as possible. So there's not a whole lot of that going on anymore. There used to be, Mikey. I mean, it's like, we used to be a little fast and loose, but not anymore.
Right. And how was working? You worked with Chloe Lanier in the Nelle with Nelle and Martin. He was her.
Yeah, she's an amazing boy. I got to
she's a fiery Spitfire actress. She's great.
Yeah, really, really, really good actress. Like, it was her. She had an idea in the first scene. I thought, boy, sink or swim, because I was like, I come in to represent her. And I forgot what it was. She had and that was when the character could still have sort of been a bad guy, because she did something to the scene. I remember she had this wonderful take on something. She said, "Try this," and I said, "Wow, that really it punched the scene up." She said, "Yeah, it's sort of like two sharks circling each other." You know what I mean? And so it was a little intimidated for somebody like who's. I think she's still, I don't even know if she's 25, 26 years old. To be that good that early, it's kind of freaky. So
yeah, she was amazing. Now, how do you feel being the lawyer? Do you like the legalese stuff?
I do. I do. I gotta work.
Okay.
I gotta work on it a little longer. The only problem is that I shot myself in the foot. I'm having fun now, and I get nailed for this all the time because Martin didn't have an accent initially. And then what happened was I was doing the legalese with the Rogers case, and I would do, to make it so I could run through it and not sound like an idiot, I would run my lines while I was walking my dog. I live up here down from Mulholland, so I walk the hills walking my dog, and I'd be saying this thing over and over and over. And there was this cadence that I couldn't get. There was this Southern cadence. Initially it was a Virginia type thing, and I couldn't get rid of it. And I walked up to Frank and I went, one of the writers is Southern. He goes, "No, it's not the writer. It's one of the dialogues." And I said, "What do you think?" And he goes, "Just don't make it too much." And I guess it took off, and then all of a sudden it evolved from there. And now it's kind of fun because it's sort of like putting on an old baseball mitt. Now it's kind of like I've sort of found the cracks and crannies in it, and it's fun to play with. But I think I pissed off a couple of people. It's like, wait a minute, why has he got an accent all of a sudden? And it's of course,
right. The accent.
And then Cobra didn't have an accent, and I did, and it's like Genie doesn't have an accent, so it's just one of those things that sort of grew, and we've stuck with it this far.
Wait, so now what is his accent now? He does. What have you done?
He's supposed to be. Don't put me on the spot.
Is he?
Oh my God, I'm blanking. The city. I'll remember. Let me come back to it. I'm blanking on the city. We finally, it's like the idea being that he moved at a very early age to the South. I can't remember, Mikey. I'm blanking on it.
But is it a southern? It's a southern.
Supposed to be a southern accent. Yeah.
Right.
It started out being a Virginia accent, a sort of highbrow Virginia accent, and it sort of devolved a little bit. It softened up, and the fact is, it's kind of God's vengeance for working with Katie McLean for Dixie. I basically all I do is I run Dixie in the back of my head.
Is it hard to do?
No, it's fun. It's hard to do and stay consistent. You call your parents and then you go, it would be great if you
how are you? Oh my gosh. I was watching an old scene, one of my favorite scenes of yours of all time. And it was with Ray McDonald and Mary Fickett. And it was when Tad remembers everything because he had amnesia. He couldn't remember, and he remembered seeing his parents, and he looks at them and they're in an airport or something, and he's like, Mom, Dad, and then do you remember this scene? And
yeah, I do.
And I just remember how good everybody was in that scene. In that very simple moment, you remember them, that's your mom and dad, and they come to you. And I just want to know, what do you remember about working with Ray and Mary?
Oh God. I get kind of emotional thinking about it. They're such wonderful, wonderful people. Mary Fickett was one of the most talented people. And Ray McDonald, most people know, was one of the funniest human beings ever. And he lived to make me laugh because we still did in those days when we did rehearsals and stuff. And he was just a joy. I mean, I remember my first scene. They picked me up in Sioux City. Chad got John Dunn, who was playing the character, and he was like 16, and they brought me back. I was 19. Like John Dunn was Jenny's younger brother, and they brought me, and I was her older brother. And the first thing that happened, I was in jail, and they picked me up in Sioux City because I got caught stealing chips. And so I'm in a car with Kate. Remember Kate? Grandma Kate and Ray there, and the setup is that Joe Martin was just so upset with Tad, doesn't know what to do with it, and of course Grandma Kate is kind of swinging to his defense and saying, "Take it easy on the boy," blah blah blah, whatever. And it's my first day working with these guys, and I want to be so good. And I remember I was running over the lines in my head, and I was sitting in the back of this car, green screen. Think, God, don't mess this up, don't mess this up, don't mess this up. So we're doing the complete dress, and 5, 4, 3, and countdown, and he's got that face like he's got a face like a basset. He had a face like a basset on. He could scowl like nobody's business, and he was like saying, "Tad, I'm so disappointed." And Kate says, "Oh, take it easy on the boy." And Ray launches into this diatribe. He turns to her and says, "Shut up, you old bat! Who asked you anyway?" And it took me a minute to realize he was trying to make me laugh, and it's just that was it. I used to.
I know.
I used to spend so much time laughing at work. It was amazing.
Everybody that I talked to following his passing said he was just the funniest. That he made everybody laugh. It was so unassuming that you wouldn't think Dr. Joe would be the funny man.
He had to say for 50 years, we're going to run some tests. So, he's a very bright guy. And he found ways to make it interesting for himself, over by the 4th decade. And he had a house. He had a gallery up in Provincetown. And I remember going up to visit him a couple of times because my folks live on Cape Cod. And he's a very, very, very talented guy. Very knowledgeable about art, stuff like this, but he was like everybody else. It was amazing. I mean, it's like, what was it like to work with Walt? With Jack Hanna and Michael. It was like we spent a lot of time laughing.
I mean, the fans that are here with us tonight, they're saying the same thing. It was at the police station, the scene I'm talking about.
Yes.
And Carolyn says, I cry every time I see that scene. And Diane says the amnesia story was so good. I'm telling you, that was at the police station. Remembers, and Tad remembers his parents, and she's like, Tad, Mary Fickett and Joe hugged him.
Right, Mary could literally. She was one of those people that could cry. She would okay, which tear, which eye do you want?
Which eye do you want it out of?
And she was the first, Mary Fickett was the first person to win a daytime Emmy.
Ever.
She got a daytime Emmy when they didn't exist. I mean, she was so good at what she was doing when the show was in black and white that the people of network said, these people ought to get an attaboy, So Mary Fickett, God bless her, was the first. And Mary lived in the same town as my mom and dad on Cape Cod. And she walked up to my mom. No, my mother walked up to her in the village market one day and said, Mary, I'm Michael's other mother.
Oh, amazing. Now you've won, speaking of Emmys, you won 3.
Yes.
So you had 2 younger actor, right? And then
I was 2 sort of like, I kind of like the one that I'm really sort of proud of is the best supporting. I mean, that was fun. The best younger leading thing was like really, I won 1 because of a director named Jack Coffey. God bless. Jack Coffey was one of the guys who was instrumental in figuring out how to do twins on video, blocking off the camera. And we did a fantasy where it was sort of the devil on my shoulder fantasy, where there was sort of Tad was thinking about doing something bad, and there was good Tad that came in, and there was bad Tad. Bad Tad I remember was a gangster, and good Tad was wearing all in white. And I decided I was going to do The Odd Couple. So Bad Tad was sort of like a Jack Klugman knockoff, and good Tad was Felix Unger. And Jack worked this thing out. It was just amazing. And I think everybody else was sort of doing the sort of what you would sort of expect.
Right.
And I think that one tape, sort of that scene sort of stuck out, and people went, oh, that's different. And so it was sort of that second Emmy was a give me. So I got lucky.
Do you remember like the night you won the supporting actor, and did you feel, was it a vindication from you, like for you, like you've now graduated into this?
I remember most about it was like my grandmother was in assisted living at that point. And my grandmother, Mommy Hesse was the one that would introduce me to like movies in black and white, like classic movies. You know what I mean? Like she allowed me to stay up one night to watch Casablanca. She introduced me to, she wanted me to know people like Gary Stewart, Jimmy Stewart, Gary Cooper, stuff like that. So she would introduce me to a lot of these classic films. And so she loved movies. She loved acting. And while she was alive, I wanted to say thanks. So I remember being able to thank her. So I said, this is for, Mommy Hesse and stuff. And apparently she had it on video, and she made everybody on staff watch it 7,000 times. But it was fun, and it was, I think, to be honest, Michael, I think, when you get into that chord, he goes, I think that was kind of fun.
Yeah. Kim Delaney was on General Hospital when you were there.
Yes.
What was that like, seeing her again there after playing Brothers?
Awesome. It was great. It was terrific. It was so weird. When you're in, that's kind of what's cool about this business, is it really is very small. So when you get to circle around and see people after so long, and she looked great. You know what I mean?
And they had a little thing like, don't I know you? Don't I know you?
Yeah. I was like, I asked the director of the day, I said, can we have just that one little, like, did you go to school in Florida? No, that one of those.
And then do you remember when she came onto the show? You were on first. Tad was on All My Children, then Jenny came on, right?
No, Kimmy was there. Kimmy was there because I remember walking into, I really fell into it. Boy, you want to talk about luck. Here I was, I don't know, 22 or something like that, 22, 21, 22, 23. And I breezed into a story that involved Marcy Walker, Larry Law, Darnell Williams, Debbie Morgan. It was sort of when it was like they decided that my character was going to be God's vengeance on Marcy Walker Liza for being so mean to Jenny. And they were, I want to tell you, Mikey, we were number one. It was the closest to feeling like I was Elvis for the day, because I remember going to Chicago and doing a personal appearance. One of the first things I did with Dorothy Lyman, played Opal, and Kim Delaney. And it was nuts. So I kind of inherited this. I literally walked in and they gave me the golden ticket. And then to make matters even better, they're like, okay, now you're going to sleep with Liza and her mother. And that was it. That was like, the daytime world was my oyster. So, I mean, there are very few people that get as lucky as I was.
And that was Jennifer Bassey.
Jennifer Bassey, God bless her, man. She was there. Jennifer, she was like one of the best comedians I ever worked with because she was specific. I remember she made me, we rehearsed, there was like, I think this set called the Glamorama back in the day. And she was like, there was a kiss that we had to do where they say, okay, you kiss her and you pick her up and you take her over and you drape her over this massage table. So we're in the back of the Glamorama. And she insisted, she goes, look, you got to pick me up and you got to kiss me and you can't open your eyes. While you're carrying me over, it's got to stay sexy. So your eyes got to stay closed. So she had me pick her up and rehearse like 8 times the number of steps over to the table. She said, you're not dropping me on my head, you know? So we're doing, I just remember because she wanted it to be funny. And she was really, really, really precise. And there was a director too, Henry Kaplan, who was really great at that stuff too. So back in the day, you know, that's one thing I gotta say. I think when I came in, it was still the glory days, and there was a comedy aspect to it that they really relied on. I mean, that we did these sort of fantasy scenes at least once every other couple of weeks where we would do takeoffs on classic films. I remember we did Casablanca, I did a Gone with the Wind one, and they had storylines that were devoted to characters who were specifically there for comic value, like the professor, like Dorothy Lyman playing Opal. And
what about Langley? Langley was there, right? And
he was. Yeah, but I mean, there were people. So there was a really nice mix of it, and then sort of as the powers that be changed, people that came in that I may have disagreed with on certain things. Basically, we sort of drifted more into. We started imitating stuff we saw on nighttime. Like I remember at one point we were doing a whole Sex and the City thing. Rebecca, but it was wonderful actress, was part of that. Alicia Minshew. Yeah, just wonderful wonder. Terry. But I think we got away from, if you ask me what, and I don't know if it would have happened, I don't think we would have survived anyway, but we kind of got away from the thing that made All My Children, I thought, wonderful back in the day was, it was a kind of small town, and Agnes used to say this. Agnes was running the show. She still had a big, big part in it. She said, it's the kind of town where it's all gossip and everybody leaves their back door open at night. You know, you feel safe. It's the kind of place you want to retire. It's the kind of place you want to put down roots. And they really kind of stuck with that. And then after Agnes sold the show and moved away, it's kind of, you could sort of feel us sort of drifting over the horizon to, you know, other shores. And then it didn't really, I think it would have been a decaying orbit anyway, because with, you know, the internet and stuff like that, you know, when I started, HBO was an experiment, you know. And then I remember sometime around the OJ trial, things started, after that, we never really had sort of the pull anymore. We never had the audience. But we still have, like, I was saying that we have the most, daytime, especially these soaps, have the most loyal audience in the world.
100%. I mean, that's the thing. They're so loyal, and there's such I always say, a bond between the actors, characters, and the audience that you really don't have.
They watch you grow up, man.
They watch you grow up, and they know you that way. And and it's that familiarity and the comfort of it that a lot of other mediums don't provide in that way.
No, they don't. And I used to have the most fun when we used to, remember Super Soap, Mikey? We used to go down
to Super Soap. We would go to Super Soap.
It was an entire weekend with the fans at MGM, and I used to have a ball. It's exhausting, man, but it was fun.
It was fun. I mean, now we don't have those.
The fans remember stuff that I don't. Fans like, I can stand on stage and go, who's Tad's first wife? and they would be like, Dottie Thornton, they get him in, because I wouldn't get it right. I'd be like,
they know more.
I was remembering Carmen or something like that, they get it right. They know, man, they remember.
Oh my gosh. So you went through the whole thing, and I know that one of the important things was that at the final episode, you got to say that friends, neighbors, family speech.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was Agnes.
That Agnes wrote.
Yeah.
And I remember it was so important that I thought it was so important that Tad got to do it and how it connected to everybody. And I know that was like had to have been a special. I know it was a special one.
Oh man, that was so sad.
It was so sad. And then I remember Debbie and Darnell being there, and David and everybody, and you doing this speech. And did you say you did it in one take, or did you have to do it?
One take. And the amazing thing was, you could tell it was Agnes. You could tell it was Agnes because I memorized it in like 5 minutes. It was flawless from beginning to end. It was one of the most beautiful pieces of sort of heartfelt, that kind of thing. And it's like, you could tell that Agnes was doing it, man. She is like, it must have been somewhere in the back of her mind, she must have been thinking that, what is it? You are all my children, the best and the worst or something.
Right. The strong and the right.
Yeah.
It was great. And then what do you remember about walking off? Was there just a lot of tears at that moment after you walked off and it was over? How did you guys?
I think we were in shock. I really think, and it was by that time, the saddest day was when I think they made the announcement, is because I remember running into Jill, and Jill was just sobbing and we were crying and stuff because.
You mean Jill Larson, correct?
Yeah. We really thought we were going to make it. We really thought they moved us out to, Burbank.
Yeah.
The whole cast had come out. We thought that they were really committed to the brand and stuff. And then they wheeled in a screen and said, Brian was there, said, it's not going to work. And that was the day where there were a lot of tears, a lot of shock. By the time we got to that day you're talking about, there's a sort of media thing that happens. You know what I mean? It's like, there was a cake and stuff like that. There were people on set taking pictures. So it was sort of, you're kind of spun up. It's like, this is a really bad analogy, forgive me. It's like being at your wedding. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of stuff going on. So it's hard for you to go, oh my God, I'm really here. I think when it really, it hit is probably like 4 or 5 weeks later, when you wake up one day and you go, oh my God, I'm never going to go back there. You know what I mean? It's like those people, that's the great thing about our job is, most of the time you do a play, you do a movie, you're always the new kid in school, Right. But the thing about soaps is you guys work together for so long. Katie McLean and I used to joke. It's like, after working together for 20 years, you could give us the phone book and, in 20 minutes, we'll give you a scene. We'll give you something, because you get to know each other. You get to know each other's rhythm. You get to know each other. You get to know what somebody's going to lean on when they're doing something, their sense of humor. And it's just like, it really is, I hate to say it, but it's because it's a beaten cliche. It's like, it really is like family. It really is.
Why do you think you and Katie, Dixie and Tad worked so well together for so many years? What was it about their coupling, in your opinion, or what worked with you two that was like, oh, well, we love Tad and Dixie? Like, what was the rooting factor that kept them?
That's such a good question. You never know. I mean, I'm sure, yes, Katie, there were times when you're like, God, can you please do something new? But it's like, as a matter of fact, Mikey, we weren't even supposed to be together. I was supposed to be a talk to. When she started, oh God, Katie must have been all about 18, 19 years old. And she was having Adam Chandler's baby or something. She was sort of on the out. She was sort of being shunned by the better part of Pine Valley or whatever. And Eileen had that, what was the name of her dress shop? I can't remember.
Myrtle's dress shop?
Yeah, Myrtle's dress shop. It's called something, I forgot. We had a scene where initially, because Tad was sort of a boy from the wrong side of the tracks. I was really into some bad stuff. So the whole idea was that I was supposed to be what's called her talk to, which is like basically they needed a way to flesh out the Dixie character. So okay, well these they're both on the outs. Let's put them together. And we did this one scene together, and they were like, God, you know, there's something there. And by the time they sent us on the run together, and this must have been back in, oh my God, I don't know.
They always send people on the run together.
Yeah,
on the run together, they're going to be together.
89. By the time we were doing that, I mean, they just knew. And I think Katie was always incredibly generous with me because I had that sort of that Weisenheimer thing going on, where I was always cracking a wise, and she was one of the most generous people in terms of being sort of the straight man. Like there was a whole storyline that I think really cemented us as characters. I don't know if you remember a show called The Honeymooners with Eve Arden.
Of course, yeah, Eve Arden, yeah.
There was a point where when they finally got Tad and Dixie together, and we were living in this really crazy, this like cartoon apartment with a golf ball, a giant golf ball or something. I just remember that, and the whole idea is that my mother-in-law moved in with us, Dorothy Lyman, and that was something that was written exclusively for humor. That was the kind of the seasoning of that. I don't know what, I can't even remember what the drama, what the serious storylines were. But I remember Katie did a scene with me, I'll never forget, where she's trying to get me to take pity on my mother-in-law and invite her to go to dinner with us on our, I think, anniversary or something like that. And it's kind of like I'm sort of digging in my heels, and you know, Katie sort of keeps upping the ante. And she finally turned to me and she started beating on me, my shoulders with her hands, like basically, damn it, just ask her. And it was hysterical. So I mean, why it worked, I don't know. I'm just glad that it did.
I was just saying, you know, there was going to be this Pine Valley reboot that Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos were working on that we haven't heard much about, but I know they were going to make it a very dark, you know, a darker, younger like a CW show was kind of what.
Yeah.
What did you think about that when you heard about it?
It would have been a neat trick. I mean, I don't know. I think they would have had a lot to live up to, because what it's saying is like basically what it was brand recognition. And I think they were going to call it Pine Valley. And I think the concept was good, which is the thing about soaps is you always have to bring in the next generation. You always got to bring up that.
Right.
And so the idea of doing a nighttime thing, Dawson's Creek, if they could
fuse it.
If they could have infused, if you really got enough of a sense of Pine Valley, you know, that it was a play. Because Pine Valley really was a character. I'm telling you, back in the 80s, you could really feel it. Pine Valley was as much character as any of the actors or actresses on the canvas. If they could have done that, I mean, it might have been kind of cool. I mean, Dawson's Creek and younger generation, it would have been a lot. But I think that's a big trick. And if you don't have Agnes going, you know, God bless her, may she rest in peace, and just going, yes, no, because I remember Agnes was kind of like, she would either say yes or she would say no, and I'll tell you why, because she knew exactly what that place was about.
Would you have considered doing it if they came to you and said,
yeah, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, at that point, you know, it's just, you get used to working. You know, you bitch. It's so easy to bitch about being a soap actor, but I got to say, you know, sitting on the bench, the person that really, the first person that I think it was like 5 years or 4 years before Jill Farron Phillips said, hey man, I want you to come over and work with that Eileen on Young and the Restless, which was also very, very cool, you know, but you get used to, you know, you get used to working in this business. You're lucky you think it's about you. And then every once in a while, never underestimate a good dose of failure in somebody's life to make you grateful. It's like, because every day I go to work now, I'm like, thank you for having me, you know?
The fans here with us have corrected us, and they're correct. Lisa, Yaba, Leslie, it's The Boutique. That was Myrtle's.
The Boutique.
Thank you, everyone. We are losing our minds. We can't think. Yes, The Boutique. And
The Boutique. They know. They remember.
Wasn't it the mother-in-laws, Eve Arden and Kay Ballard?
Yes, Eve Arden. Yes. That was
correct. Thank you, Ron. Yeah, but see, they're on it. They know. And
they know. Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's one thing I have to say. There's never underestimate a soap audience, because people can make fun of the format, but soap audiences pick up on stuff that's amazing. I mean, like the slightest little, who knows? Maybe it's like for these people, it's like family. Soaps are like family. Or you come home at night. In the old days, it was like, I want to watch my VHS. I don't want to be upset. I don't want to watch the news. I want to hang with people that I know, and Pine Valley's a place, or whatever. But it's not that, because just because it's a very simple format, it's very formulaic, it doesn't mean that the audience is simple. They're not. They pick up on stuff that's amazing.
They're amazing. They keep me on my toes. Like they keep me on my toes. Like they're like, no, that's not right, Michael. And I think I'm right. And they're like, no, it's not. And then I look it up and I'm like, oh my God, you're right. I'm wrong. Like
I'll tell you, Mikey, they've never missed a joke, ever. They've never missed a joke.
And here's Elizabeth is saying her favorite scene that you've had is with Valentin on General Hospital when you guys are making fun of Detective Chase.
Detective Chase? Well, I have fun. I get in trouble because Patrick is one of my nearest and dearest friends, period. As a matter of fact, I am a godfather to his second, I'm very proud of this, godfather to his second child, my godson, Colin Michael Stewart. And so when we get together on set, and we have a very similar, and James is really sharp. He's a musician, really first-class musician. It's genetic. His old man was half of Chad and Jeremy. So he's got this. Stop! Kill! Yeah. There he is.
Just talking about me?
Yes. Come
here.
Yes.
I folded your laundry.
This.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, James. How are you?
I'm good. He has me by once a week to darn his socks and
I heard you're a very busy man, shooting 2 shows.
2 shows.
Doing his laundry. Oh, the shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about my career.
and James, congratulations on your Emmy nomination.
Thank you. Those things are cheap in this house, though. This one has what, 3 of them?
He has 3.
Yeah.
So we get in trouble. So to answer your question, we have too much fun anyway. He lives to make me laugh. Like what it was like, he'll on the countdown, because I'm doing the Southern character, he'll start doing foghorn leghorn impersonations and stuff. You know what I mean? Like on the countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2. It's like, where is that Robin? Ah, damn it.
Boy, I say boy.
So we have too much fun, I think.
I mean, they let you do your thing, right? If they'll write Valentin and Martin.
They'll pull us back into, as long as like the one thing they're very, very aware. They're very invested in that character. So it's another word. They're never going to let me make fun of Valentin, period. So there's sort of a me Tarzan, you cheetah thing going there. But as you can see, which makes me the most brilliant actor, because clearly, I mean, seriously, all you got to do is look.
James, you met Michael how many years ago was this now?
50
it
years
feels
ago.
like 50.
It feels like 10 minutes underwater. But no, the truth is that if I can have a moment of being serious, I remember when it was time to audition for the job on All My Children, and I turned the TV on, and he was doing a scene with Jill Larson and Katie McLean, and it was just the most charming thing I personally had ever seen. And I thought, yeah, sign me up. And they put me in that storyline, so I couldn't believe my luck. And he taught me pretty much everything I know. I mean, what I'm doing these days, I learned from watching him back in those days.
No, you moved on. I have to say, one of the coolest things about most people don't know about James is it was Lonnie Quinn who was playing Will when he was a good guy, and then they needed to they
changed it up.
They changed it up. He came out and he was the bad guy, and by the time he got to the point where it's like he felt good playing with stuff. He said, he'd go home, work on stuff, bring it in and go, I want to try this. He got so good to the point, like they were trying to, on the day that they killed Will, he got hit with an axe or something. They were trying to figure out, how could we not see the body? So how could we keep him alive? But they were too far gone at that point.
Everybody loved Will. He was such a creep and bad guy, but they wanted him to stay on the show because James was so great.
People talk about that character, yeah. We had a good time though in those days. You know, you know the story. We went to the White House with Barbara Bush.
We did. We went to the White House.
We stopped off at McDonald's because we didn't want to be seen eating the buffet.
Yeah,
like a couple of hours.
I have a picture of us somewhere with Barbara Bush somewhere. Yeah. We got invited.
How much fun are you having, James, doing Villains of Valley View? It looks hilariously fun.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I don't know if you know this or not, but we film in the old All My Children soundstage. So I'm 2 doors down from his.
How weird is that?
Oh my God, how weird is that? Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like 9 minutes to the door.
When's the premiere?
June 3rd on Disney Channel is when everybody gets to see it. You'll like it.
It's got a really cool twist to it. I think you gotta watch.
But
he's doing this, by the way, 2 jobs one is hard enough, So
what's cool is that working with this one, we don't have a lot of time. I have to be out. I have a hard out at 9 a.m., which means we can't mess up our lines.
Yeah.
MK, our producer, comes down and says, listen, unless a wall falls down, we're keeping whatever you do. So
keep going. Yeah.
But it's so funny, the people that are with us tonight, James, they really love the scenes between Valentin and Martin. They just
it was fun. Yeah.
Fun, right?
Well, I think we're rapidly turning into Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks. We just sit around.
I think it's kind of cool. It's like, because Valentin's got there's very few characters that soften Valentin's edges, and one of them is Charlotte, obviously. The other one's Finn. And I kind of think that I like to think that I got a little bit of the Jiminy Cricket thing going on. It's like I'm the soft side I'm the Stuart to his Adam. So yeah, we have fun, and it reads. It really does.
James, we were talking about Michael's 3 daytime Emmys and winning an Emmy. Now, this is you were nominated last year for supporting as well, right?
I was, yes.
So, what did you end up submitting this year?
This year, I don't know.
Come on, tell him. Here, sit here. I'm gonna get
No, I'm not taking over your interview. I'm not taking over your interview.
No, I'm
gonna go make a caprese salad.
Anyway,
but there was some really good stuff, mostly with Finola and Amanda Seaton, right? I mean, there was some great stuff when Amanda Brooklyn tells Valentin that Bailey is not his, and I mean, I'd be a fool to not put that on. So
amazing.
We'll see. Yeah. I'm gonna go make.
Bye, James.
Bye.
Don't break shit. Yeah, one reason he's because he lives down south of the airport, and our call time tomorrow is like 6:30. So he's like, and he's got to go from there over to. So he said, "Hey man, can I just crash at your place?" So I'm like, so it's kind of worked out nice that way. He comes up, he's like here at least once a week, and he's what most people know about James is a very good cook.
A good cook.
Excellent cook.
Yeah.
Foodie, total foodie.
Was it like for you when Catherine Hicklin and you were both on soaps, and was it a lot of pressure, because she was big too in the soaps back then?
She was right? Like Catherine worked. She did 3 soaps in a matter of it's funny because my hat's off to her because we moved into New York and I was coming back to All My Children for the 3rd time I think, and she didn't have a job. And she ended up getting Loving, which then spun into The City, where she was working with Morgan Fairchild. And then she turned around and did she did another character. She played on One Life to Live and I forget. So I think I asked her once, I said, how long it seemed like it was only a couple of years, but she was on One Life, I think, for 7, 8 years, something like that.
Amazing as Lindsay Rappaport. She was.
Yeah. Lindsay. Yeah. And she was I always felt like a little bit like a tick on a rhino's butt because I had a hard time just doing Tad, and Catherine always had 8 different irons in the fire. I remember she was the kind of person that would go, one day she went, I'd like to do Broadway. And I was like, yeah, I'd like to work for Spielberg. I didn't give him a call, see what happened. But she'd go out and do it. She ended up doing Les Mis. You know what I mean? Or she would be like, she said, I wanted to, she had a singing group for a while. She cut a couple of CDs, cabaret music. And then she started her own, makeup company. She made the most of it. It was like, I was perfectly happy doing Tad. That was it, so.
And have you stayed in touch with Susan Lucci at all?
No, last time I reached out to Susan. I heard about Helmut's passing and I called the number I had, but I couldn't get through, so I was so sorry to hear about that. Because Helmut was one of the first people I met. I remember meeting Liza, when Liza was this big.
So, you being synonymous with All My Children, it must be a pinch yourself thing still for you when people, because they love Tad, they love you from that show. When I was telling people you were going to be on, that it's such a great recognition to them. They feel like, we were talking about comfort. They loved you as Tad. Is that something you take with you, that you had such an impact? You did have a significant impact on an audience.
Totally. Yeah. The best. One of the I don't know if I tell this story. It's like, you just don't know, because it's so easy to make fun of soaps, but you don't know what place they occupy in somebody's life. Somebody may be going through them, but somebody may be in school. Somebody may be raising their kids. Somebody, somebody may be in the hospital. You don't know. I remember meeting a lot of flight attendants, because they would it seemed like All My Children was always on in the lounge, in the airport lounge. But there was one day we were doing, it was after Super Soap. It was the Sunday after Super Soap, and I had taken, my mom and dad were with me, and I was with another actor, and we had gone to the Animal Kingdom, and we were at the Meerkat exhibit. And there was this lady with her daughter, and her daughter was in a wheelchair, and she had some issues to deal with in life. And the mother sort of sidled up to us. She's very, very sweet. James, it was me and James. And she said, we were there yesterday, but it was too hot. I didn't want we didn't want to wait in line. Would you please just take a photo with me and my daughter? And we went nuts. We were crawling over this poor kid, hugging her, kissing her and stuff like that. And we all had a ball, and she was laughing, giggling like a pony and stuff. And I remember I walked away and I looked at my dad, and my dad had tears in his eyes. He said, I don't care what you do for the rest of your life. I know you're a success. That was really cool. I always say it's like, and I learned this from Susan, by the way, which is really cool. I remember we were doing, it was Super Soap, matter of fact, and Susan had written a book.
Oh yeah.
And these people, and it was me, it was like way back in the beginning of Super Soap, and me and Susan were on a dais together because we were doing autographs 2 at a time. And this woman comes up, and she's got the book, and it's got to be like 95 degrees. I don't know, Mikey. And she goes, oh, Miss Lucci, I just love you. Would you put, and she just keeled over. She just went, boom, she went down. And Susan jumps up, all 5'4" or 5'5", runs off this thing, runs around, and picks this woman up, literally. And it's like, oh my God, are you okay? And she was so sweet. She hugged her, and she was like, she autographed the book, and she made sure she was okay. And she got it we had a bottle of water. She got it for her. And all the while, there was a guy with a stopwatch timing how many, because you were supposed to get through a certain number of people. And this guy was going, we got to go. We got to keep going. Okay, it's like time to go. And Susan finally turned around. She put her finger up in this guy's face. She goes, I'm going to be here for a minute. And this guy just completely does the backstroke. And I never forgot it. I said to her when we were back at work, like a week later, I said, that was the kindest thing I've ever seen. And she looked at me, she goes, Mikey, they love you for 40 years. All they want you to do is love them for 30 seconds. And I've never forgotten that. It's like, it's absolutely true. The ability to make somebody's day, to put a smile on somebody's face just by going, hey, that's the greatest part of what we do.
They're bringing up the chicken suit. What was the chicken suit?
The chicken suit. I can't remember. There are things that will never live down. Like I don't know why chicken fingers too. There was like there was a whole thing about Tad Dixie and chicken fingers. I was getting frozen chicken fingers for like 5 years, boxes of them in New York, and I proposed to Dixie in a chicken suit, and it stuck.
And how did you feel about doing that?
By that time, I was pretty comfortable with Tad being sort of funny. You know what I mean? I think that if you really want to know the truth, that's one reason why I think the character survived, because there was a sense of humor to him.
So what do you want to see happen to Martin on General Hospital? What would you like?
Anything. I'm so happy to I'm so freaking happy to have the job. I don't care. I mean, whatever they do, these people know their job. I love working with Genie. I mean, they've not put a foot wrong yet. So I don't want to wade in and say, hey, wouldn't it be great if? I got a feeling between the writers and the fans, because the fans are very, very active in this industry. They're like, hey, what about somebody?
They just came up with what if Dixie was one of Martin's ex-wives.
But I was going to say, well, for a while I thought, well, are they going to try to? Is it going to be a reveal? It's like it's really Martin, it's really Tad. But now that I'm in, the Spencer family, I don't know if they can do that. But I'm sure it would be great that to have I did the Kim Delaney. It'd be great to work with Katie and have her, do one of the kind of these things.
Yeah. Well, it's been so great talking to you, Michael, and it's so great that you've shared some time with us, and everyone's so happy to see you.
Thank you. And I got to say, Mikey, you've been a good friend to me for a long time. I truly appreciate it. And when you called and said, hey, would you do in a minute? And I remember when I said they're the best audience in the world. And it's like, hey, man, I'm still working at it. I look like a 6-foot cigarette butt. I got
it's not, you don't have to carry, but is it nicer now where it's not like, Tad carried the show, like he was,
it's fun.
It's easier now, right?
Yeah, it's kind of nice being, it's kind of nice being like the look. It's nice being the local color, the flavor. It's like they bring me in, I'm seasoning. You know what I mean?
Well, everybody, stay tuned for more of Michael Knight on upcoming episodes of General Hospital. And Michael, thank you. It was so great to see you and chat with you. I always love talking with you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night. Thanks, Michael.
God bless. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for being with us. Bye. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much. And we'll be back with another one-on-one interview on a live stream.